So you're trying to decide between an instructor-led or a self-paced course. Both of them have pros and cons, but which one is the right choice for you? In this video, I'm going to break down both options so that you can make the most informed choice for yourself. Hey everyone, I'm Victoria. I'm a medical coder, auditor, educator, and content creator, and on my channel I provide tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you be successful in a medical coding career. If you haven't already, highly encourage you to subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you can get alerts when I post new episodes. First, let me start off by telling you that if you want to become a medical biller and coder in 6 months or less without going into student loan debt, you definitely have to take my Masterclass. The Masterclass basically lays out all of the things you need to know on how to get into medical billing and coding, how to get the right training. So everything that I have learned in over a decade of being in medical billing and coding, how to get the right training, what certifications you should be preparing for, how to save time and money, how you could possibly get a free laptop with your program, and a lot more. It's that complete roadmap on how you go to, I think this is what I want to do, to I'm now job ready as a medical biller and coder in less than 6 months. It takes away all of that guesswork and lets you know about the best program that you can get into for medical billing and coding, so check the link in the description. So, self-paced versus instructor-led. And so this video is going to talk about those online options. I'm not going to address the in-person, because if you're someone who needs an in-person formal classroom setting, you probably know that you need that formal in-person classroom setting. We're talking about the online options here. Do I want to go fully on my own, self-paced, or do I want something where I do have a designated instructor? So let's start with that self-paced. Self-paced, or you may hear referred to as on-demand, at your own pace. So asynchronous, sometimes you'll hear it referred to. Asynchronous could be either. So asynchronous means that there isn't a live person. It's not like you're watching it live like you would a live stream or a live event. It's all of that content is kind of pre-recorded as asynchronous. Now, when it's self-paced, sometimes they do give you a deadline. So they'll say like, oh, you have access to all the material, but you need to finish it up in 6 months or 9 months, or you could pay for extensions. So self-paced doesn't always mean you have an eternity to finish it. They do sometimes give you a timeline of when you will lose access to all the course information. But self-paced is so great because if you're someone who's very motivated and you like to work ahead, you can work at your own pace. If one particular section is easy to you can zoom through it and get to the next one right at your own pace. Or if you're having a rough week, your kid gets sick, or you're just not feeling great, you can slow it down that week and then pick it up the next week because you're working at your own pace. Or if you have an area that you're struggling with, I hear a lot of coders say that cardiology, and that myself included, cardiology is not my strong subject. A lot of people take a long time to really grasp that cardiology section. So if you're like, you know what, I think I just need to give myself an extra few days working on practice questions for this and really rereading the material so I have a better foundation so I don't fall behind, you can do that in self-paced. And one of the other perks of doing the self-paced is that oftentimes they are the cheaper, the less expensive option, because there's more overhead cost if we have to pay for an instructor. So if we take the instructor out of the equation and everything just auto grades itself, you can auto submit things, it takes all that overhead cost out, so then you likely get a lower cost. Now, there are some cons to self-paced, and that is you might interpret something wrong. So if you interpret something wrong in part A and then you move on to part B and C and D, you could continue to have not a great foundation and might be miscoding things because you misunderstood a guideline or a rule. And with some of the options there that are self-led, you don't always have an instructor to ask questions of, or it might be very slow until you hear back. They might have like a pool of random people that you can submit questions to, but it might be, 48 hours. But honestly, one of the things I will say about that is if you think about traditional school settings, you don't have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week access to your school instructors. And that is a lot to expect from someone that you should just be able to, send them a question and they answer it right away. Most people don't want to be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week and have constant immediate access. So even though it might seem from your standpoint very dire, you're like, oh, I want to know this right away, you have to understand that, your need doesn't necessitate someone else's availability. The other con of self-paced is if it's not structured, if you're just given a 6-month chunk or a 9-month chunk. Some people don't have the best motivation to stay with that. They need that structure of, in week 1 I do this, in week 2 I do that. and they need the accountability. Accountability is a big thing. That's why I go to a personal trainer every single week, actually twice a week, because if I was paying $10 a month to go to the gym and I didn't feel like going, I'd probably not go. But the fact that I know someone is at the gym waiting for me and I'm paying them a lot of money, and if I don't show up, they're going to text me and be like, Victoria, what the hell's going on? You know, I know that they're going to keep me accountable. And a lot of people need that accountability. But if you're someone who's really good at staying self-motivated, you can go with those self-paced courses. Now, with the instructor-led, of course, one of the biggest pros is that you have someone that you can bounce questions off of. So you have someone to bounce those questions and concerns off of, and there's also that structure. You know that you have assignments due at certain dates, quizzes due at certain dates, you're supposed to complete by a certain date. And if you're someone who likes that social aspect, you like having other people around you that are also learning that same material, that you can talk about your struggles or bounce questions off of about, you know, oh, your membership, you know, how long did it take you to hear back from this or that? You know, you have that social aspect when you are in a more structured instructor-led course. Sometimes, even though your instructor has navigated the waters before, it may have been several years since they've had to do it. So having someone around you, a group of people around you that are navigating those waters for the first time and have more current experience can be helpful. Now, the cons of having an instructor-led course are, first off, it's probably going to cost you more because, again, that overhead, if they have to pay for an instructor to be available to answer questions and grade papers and stuff, that's going to wind up with a higher cost for an instructor-led course. And on the flip side of that socialization, you may have other students that are sucking up time because they don't understand a concept, and even though you do and you're ready to move on, you have to wait, or they're just asking a zillion different questions. And there seems to be, almost in just about every class, someone that either they or someone they know, their neighbor, their friend, like every medical condition you talk about, they're like, my neighbor had that, and let me tell you, they were in the hospital, and blah, 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 blah. And they want to tell you this whole narrative, this whole story about everyone they know's medical conditions. And sometimes comparison is the thief of joy, so you may wind up in a situation where you are trying to compare yourself to your fellow classmates, and if they have healthcare experience, even if it's just working as an assistant of some sort, you know, you might feel that you're behind, that you're not as good because they have some experience or some exposure. They're more familiar with certain terms that you're just hearing for the first time. So there may be that aspect where you are comparing your performance to the performance of the students enrolled in your instructor-led class. So which is best for you? It really depends on what you want out of your education and what your needs are. If you're looking for those strict deadlines that you have to meet no matter what, and you're looking for a more social aspect, then maybe go with an instructor-led course. But if you want to work at your own pace, you want to have control over your own learning environment, you're probably better suited for a self-paced course. No matter which program you choose, though, just make sure that you're going through a reputable source. And if you want to know the reputable source that I recommend, again, go to my medical coding masterclass that is linked in the description. I will also pin it to the top comment because it is really just a great, great program, very top notch. I have personally given it my gold star. There are a lot of perks that you just won't find in other programs. Now, if you need more information about getting started in medical billing and coding, you can check out this playlist right here. I will see you guys in the next video. And until then, just keep on coding on.